Troy Dunn is with us. He's Rice County Sheriff. We're not here to talk about Faith Hill and Tim McGraw. We're here to talk about various law enforcement issues. The main reason we wanted to have you on, Troy, as you know, is the hot topic in law enforcement these days is body cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Chief Bolden was with us last Friday, and I'm going to paraphrase significantly what he said.
Okay.
So if you're listening, Andy, and you want to correct me, you can certainly call in. The gist of what I got from him, I think, is he's big time in favor of body cameras.
Yep.
Thinks they will be standard uniform attire
Yep.
before too long, but he doesn't want to be the test market for it, so to speak.
Correct. And we're the same thing. We've tested some, and I think it's just a matter of time as well. But I think our legislature needs to decide what's public, what's private. They have to come up with some funding sources, because just to purchase them, you can spend, anywhere between $500 and $1,000 to $1,500 a unit. But the big cost is on the storage, and then to decide how long do you hold that. And obviously, the longer you hold that, is the greater storage, and there's a pretty significant cost. And I think Duluth has already found that out.
Yeah, they've jumped in, haven't they?
Yeah, they did, and significant cost to their IT budget because of the storage. And I know there was a few police chiefs that went to the Department of Administration and tried to get them to rule on what's public and what's private. And I agree, it needs to be decided, because a lot of people will think that it should be public, but then when it's your son or daughter or a relative of yours and you're seeing them as a victim, you're seeing them maybe not dressed appropriately for public viewing, and yeah, you can change things, but it's going to be a significant amount of work for our record staff to go through that and download what needs to be released. And then if you have to cloud over certain things, and then people are going to question, well, why did you do that sometimes? So I think if the legislature can work this out with the chiefs of police and State Sheriff's Association, FOP, and I think that we'll all be in a better place, and it's going to be a great thing. I'm not afraid of it. Our officers are doing a phenomenal job, and it will support what they're doing on the street. And I think we found that when we went to it in the squad cars, that it cut down on our court time, because you just produce the video, and there you go.
Yeah, they see the video, it's like slam dunk.
Yeah. Especially for impaired drivers. When I first got the Feddies donated a videotape to me back in the 90s. I was the first deputy in the sheriff's office to have it, and my court time was cut in half just because it wasn't my word against their word. The video spoke for itself, and defense attorneys would look at it and say, yep, I think we better plead this one out. I don't think there's, we're going to win this one. So when you show them that they can't stand up, their speech is slurred, it just makes it very, very obvious what we were dealing with on that evening.
It sounds like you and the chief are in total agreement in this, because this pretty much sounds exactly like our conversation last week.
Yeah, no, I'm in total agreement, and we didn't talk ahead of time, but I just think it makes great sense. But again, there's some costs that are going to be incurred, and we need to budget for that. And if they're going to make certain things mandatory, then a lot of times they'll assist with financial assistance, and I would hope they would do the same here.
And as the chief noted last week, it's for citizens' protection as well as officers' protection.
Exactly. Yep. We're not going to have the people making the false allegations, and I think we're so fortunate here in Rice County to have great officers, and we've had some people make some allegations, and then when you can bring a video to support what the officers did, and I almost think that we should charge the people back and say, well, that you made false allegations.
The sheriff was knee-deep in thought when we had to go to that market update. You recall what we were talking about? We were talking about body cameras.
How it's a protection for both the officers and the citizens, and I said, you know, we fortunately don't get a lot of complaints, but I know there's been a few false accusations against officers, and you know, I think this would just clarify it for the public, for those people that questioning, you know, an officer's integrity or whatever it may be, or an agency's integrity. And that's one thing, unfortunately, with all the media that's gone on throughout the nation, that, you know, some people have really stereotyped all law enforcement to think that all law enforcement are bad because of what a few are doing. And I just want people to know in Rice County that you've got a great group of law enforcement, both in the cities, county, and the state patrol, that work very hard to protect you and do a great job, and so don't judge based on a few officers' actions. And if we have an officer that's not acting properly, we will hold them accountable. You know, we want people to trust law enforcement, and we have a very difficult job to do, but we're here to do what's right for our citizens.
And it's not for everybody, and you've had people in your own department who've been there for a while, and then it just wasn't their
yeah. And, you know, especially in the last few years, I've had 2 or 3 officers apply and start out, and it just does. It's not easy on family life, and they found that out, and I give them credit, I guess, to, you know, to save their marriages and
Sure.
their family life, to say this is not for me, and to make that move. But it's hard. We put a lot of time and money into training these officers and making sure that they're well equipped and doing the best they can out there. So when you lose a good one, you know, you got to start from square one again in the hiring process. But we're very fortunate, and it hasn't happened a lot with the sheriff's office. We're pretty lucky, and if Andy's listening, he's always joking with me, don't come and steal my good officers, you know, because we've had a few people switch from blue to brown. So yeah, so I'm not going to steal any this month, Andy, but we'll see what happens in November.
Are you at full capacity for
We're
officers?
at full capacity right now, and both in their correctional side and in their jail, and got a great staff, and they're all working well together. So it's nice to when you can be at you know, full staff, and things run a lot smoother than when you're short.
I know the chief is telling us he's lost a couple officers to disability. You know, they got smacked on the highway there.
Yeah,
storm.
That was a very sad event, and you know, I just was coming on duty that morning when that crash happened on the interstate, and was the first officer on scene, and it was really sad to see those officers, young officers, and, you know, fortunate to be alive, and hopefully they can find something else they can do, because they're very young, you know, went out very early in their career. And, you know, that's, as an administrator, you just hope, that's when I go to bed every night, I hope that everybody makes it home at the end of their shift, and, you know, you get through a career in one piece, because, you know, we lost Terry Hansen and John Liebenstein in the line of duty, and we lost Charlie Aldorfer at a young age when he was at guard camp, and so we had a few rough years there at the sheriff's office. But, you know, we just, as long as people are making good decisions out there on the roads, and you know, slowing down, that's a big thing for us, and so they don't hit our officers, and our officers are making good decisions and safe decisions at the calls.
Well, they get a pull over too. I don't know if that had any effect on this accident on the interstate, but they evidently hit him in the lane that when they were pulled over to assist another driver.
Yeah, they were trying to partially block a traffic lane, and the person was driving way too fast for the conditions. And so many times we say it, and it won't be long, Gordy, and you'll be asking me to come on and talk about winter safety driving, and we'll have that talk again. So, you know, and who knows? I mean, we're getting close to freezing now at night, and if you get a little moisture on the roadway, the bridge decks especially, and that's where this was, and you know, just need to slow down, make sure you get there in one piece.
Well, that's the other topic I wanted to touch on, was the farm safety, and it's not just for the farmers, it's for any of us that are using any of those rural roads to slow down, be cautious, you know, don't be in such a hurry.
Right. No, they're in full swing out there in the fields right now, and you know, you're seeing the wagons and the semis coming out of the fields and the combines going from place to place, and you know, I've been to a few crashes with farm equipment and implements of husbandry, and it's usually not a good sight, because those are big pieces of equipment, and you know, there's not a lot of protection, and you know, they don't have the airbags, so the farmers and their workers, they're the ones getting banged up as well, you know, if they get hit. So people need to slow down, be cautious when they're proceeding around them. I would say a majority of the crashes happen when people are trying to go around this farm equipment and they're making turns into the field or into the farm, and you know, they just see this big piece of equipment going slow and they just want to get around them. And you know, the newer equipment has more lights and you know, both blinkers and flashing LEDs and strobes, different things like that. So people just need to you know, before they pass, look and see if there's a farm driveway there, or you know, something like that, and wait till they're not by one before they pass. And you know, there's still some old tractors out there that all they have on them is the slow moving vehicle emblem, which you know, is required for all farm equipment as well on the rear. So people just need to be cautious, and you know, we want people to get home without getting into the crash. And these farmers, it's a dangerous job in farming the way it is, and you know, especially we don't want them getting hit on the highway as well. So,
and they can't go fast.
No. No, you know, the new combines and some of these new tractors can go, but most of them aren't going over 30 miles an hour. So, and then you got these gravity wagons that are maybe full of grain, and you don't want to go real fast with those anyway. So a lot of those things aren't going to budge, especially when they're full. So we don't want people tangling with them. So yeah, be cautious. Again, make sure you're wearing your seatbelts. I'm sure you've heard us say it enough, but you know, we still see a few people that are forgetting to do that, and you know, you tangle with a piece of farm equipment and you're not restrained, you're going to go right into the dash or the door or whatever it may be. So,
but again, bottom line, just be patient.
Be patient, slow down, and proceed with caution around them. Yep, exactly.
Very patient. And the farmers themselves, we want them to be safe too.
We
Don't be in a hurry, get plenty of sleep, that
Yep.
sort of thing.
Yep, and that's the thing. And I know that with this frost that we've been getting the last couple mornings, they're not starting quite as early, but yeah, I mean, they spend a long time in there, especially when they start plowing and everything else. And yeah, we need them rested up and making good decisions, because you know, we're seeing there's studies that show that when you're sleep deprived, it's as if you're driving impaired by alcohol. So you're, you know, not making good decisions, falling asleep, you're crossing the center line, whatever it may be. And another area that you need to proceed with caution too, Gordy, is hill crests. You know, people come flying over a hill, and then there's a piece of farm equipment, and it's going 15 to 20 miles an hour. So,
and you got to stop right
yeah,
now.
especially on, you know, on the township roads or gravel roads. You come over the hill, you're not going to be able to stop as quick, and so be cautious of that. And when you're coming up to those hill crests, make sure you're on your side of the road, not going right down the middle of the road, you know, so you're not crashing head on into somebody else. That's something that we see from time to time. And you know, adults, we need to remind our kids and our grandkids of safe driving, and when they're in there with us, we need to show them, be a good role model for them, so that they, you know, replicate our good driving habits.
Sounds like it'd be a good idea when you're on the rural road, you come to a hill, you slow down, because you never know what's on the other side.
No, you don't. And
could be a deer.
Mm-hmm. And I was almost in a crash many years ago with the farm equipment at night, because this tractor was pulling, yeah, I can't remember what it was, but didn't have a lot of lights on, so
right.
You know, I didn't see the lights coming over the hill crest as I'm coming up, and there it was taking the whole road up, and I was able to fortunately maneuver around in the ditch and get around them. But
yeah, and these are wider now too.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a good point. They do take up virtually the whole road.
Yeah,
some of it.
Yep, and you know, I know a lot of the farmers, when they get these big 10, 12 head combines, they're hauling them to the field on a trailer because they do take up the whole road, and they don't want to get in a crash either. So, but from time to time we see somebody that say, oh, I can get to the field with it on, and then you see them driving off on the shoulder so people can get around. But that's just, we ask the farmers to use those trailers to get their large heads there to the field, and then put them on once they get to the field.
You have a phone call? Oh, okay. I wonder if it's Andy. We will head to that now, I think. It's been a while since we've done this. Good morning, you're on AM Minnesota.
Yesterday I was coming down County Road 19. There was a combine that took up the entire road. The car coming from the opposite direction actually had to pull partially into the ditch to get by the guy. What's the policy as far as those guys are concerned?
Very good question.
They're supposed to have a vehicle, escort vehicle with them if they are doing that, to notify other motorists that there's a slow-moving vehicle and tractors. So if they're taking up the whole road, then they should have one on both sides of them. Obviously, if they are taking up the whole road, they have to be able to let vehicles pass around them. That's why those trailers are made for those heads, so they're not taking up the whole road. So they should have had escort vehicles and on each side. So if we do see that, our deputies will take enforcement action against the farmer.
So it's law that you have to have an escort vehicle.
Yeah. Yep. If you're impeding into the other traffic lane, you have to have an escort vehicle.
All right. Does that do it for you, sir?
Have either one, because I was right behind the combine, and he didn't have the head on, but the combine was so big it took up the whole road.
Okay. Yeah, they should have had an escort vehicle. So in the future, just give us a call. Call into the sheriff's office and let us know where it's at. We'll send a deputy in the area and check it out.
We'll drive around out in Walcott then, because that's where it was.
All right, we'll put an extra patrol out there in Walcott for you. How's that?
Thanks for the call. Certainly do appreciate that. That's how easy it is. Wow. Well, I'm glad we got that information out about it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that he had that run-in yesterday, and they just keep making these machinery bigger and bigger, but yeah, they still have to realize it's not just for them on the road, and to be cautious of that and drive safely. So we'll have to keep our eye on Walcott and all the other townships.
Yeah. Well, we did have a really sad incident that happened on Highway 3 a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it was hanging over the other lane.
Yep, and he did not have the proper lighting on the vehicle, and unfortunately that young girl died, and was at that crash as well. It was very sad to see that, and just an unfortunate reminder of how quickly things can happen, and that was even on a state road, but that farm equipment takes up the bridge. The bridge was narrower.
Yep.
And not as big a shoulder, so that was So we don't want to see tragedies like that repeat themselves. It affects so many people for a very long time.
Yeah, well, the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
It's not something you get over with.
No.
Ever.
No, that's right. It's with you forever.
It certainly is. Troy Dunn is the sheriff of Rice County. He's with us this morning. We started the show talking a little bit about body cameras. And it sounds like, as I mentioned before, you and the chief are on the same page about, let's let other departments kind of work out the kinks a little bit before we dive in.
Mm-hmm.
But you indicated that you did some test pilots or something? Yeah,
we've gotten a couple of them just to try. We have our in-squad cameras have a setup that you can add a body camera to it for an additional cost. So we've tested that. We've tested one that's made by Taser, and we tested another brand that I can't think of, that just to work out the kinks. And
but you mentioned the cost, Sheriff, and you would think if every department in the United States of America is going to go to body cameras, they got to come down in price, don't they?
Well, that's our hope. that's definitely our hope, because you know, and you can buy some things online that are small, and yeah, I think I've seen some as small as $400 or $500, but they don't hold up to the weather in Minnesota. You know, that's
the other thing the chief had pointed out too. Yeah.
You know, we have extreme heat, we have extreme cold, we have a lot of, you know, it's not like when they're testing them in Arizona and California. You know, they've got the heat, but they don't have the snow, they don't have the rain and things like that. So, you know, how durable are they? You know, are they gonna, the clips, even as something as simple as the clips that when they clip onto the uniform and where do they go, it still is not 100% to show you, you know, the peripheral of what might be beside you and what's going on behind you. The audio part is another option that you know, you want that to work when it needs to, and you know, battery life, how long will they make it? Will they make it a 12-hour shift? Our deputies are working 11 and 12-hour shifts, so you know, so you have to have extras and switch things out, and so a lot of work to be done, and you want to make sure that, you know, we're spending our money wisely and getting good quality equipment for our officers.
And the Department of Administration you mentioned earlier, they ruled that it's not in their purview to determine what's legal, what's not, and urged the chiefs, as I understand it, to go to the legislature and let's get some laws passed on this.
Yes, yes. So the Chiefs of Police Association, the Minnesota Sheriff's Association, the Minnesota Peace and Peace Officers Association, and Journal Order of Police are probably your big core group of law enforcement that hopefully we're going to get the ears of our legislators and senators. And you know, I know that both myself and Andy and Monty Nelson, the chief in Northfield, have spoken with some of our local legislators and letting them know where we stand on it, and asking them to support some funding and to, you know, work with us so that we can come to a consistent, because it shouldn't be that one agency has, you know, this declared as private and another agency says this is public, and one agency is holding it for 30 days and one agency is holding it for 180 days. You know, I think there should just be consistency across the board. And so many times it comes from the legislature what they want. So obviously we'd like to see this sooner rather than later, so we can get this implemented and going. And like I said, I think it's going to be a great tool for us to have.
And we're talking $500 to $1,000 per camera, so you got
25 deputies.
There's that cost plus the
storage,
IT portion.
The storage fee is gonna, and depending on how long you have to retain it, you know, so that the storage fee could be very, very significant. So
the world's changing, isn't it, Troy?
It is.
Just think of when you first started. Did you ever dream that you'd see, you know, cameras in the vehicles, let alone body cameras?
The body camera thing never crossed my mind. I thought someday, but I'm sitting there thinking of those large camcorders that we had back in the 80s. I'm like, how would you mount that on your squad? And then you're thinking, okay, if worst case scenario you're in a crash, what's going to keep that thing from flying off and hitting you?
Yeah.
And, you know, so things have obviously gotten a lot smaller. I mean, our radar units used to hang out the window, the antenna, and now, you know, they're very small and compact, and they actually, manufacturers of our squad cars make areas for those to be installed so they don't have to be on the dash and they're not flying objects if you're involved in a motor vehicle crash. So they've come a long way. The radios, I mean, the radios when I started were bricks, you know, they were heavy and you had 4 channels on them, and now we have small light radios with 160 channels that we could talk on, and we can talk anywhere in the United States now with 800 megahertz. So it's amazing how far we've come with technology.
You know, only get more so.
Yep, I agree. You're still gonna need law enforcement with good common sense and the human aspect to, you know, make it work. You know, people keep saying, oh, you know, someday it'll be like RoboCop and you'll just have RoboCops, but the thing, you know, you have to be able to think and
well, not everything is black and white.
Exactly. So, you know, officer discretion goes a long way, and you know, a lot of people have appreciated just getting a warning, you know, and that might be enough for them. And then obviously there's our habitual offenders that, you know, just keep reoffending and keep seeing us, and it's unfortunate. And you know, but
in some states, by the way, Troy, they don't allow, and I think maybe you talked about this on a previous show, I think your wife was on a trip or something somewhere where they didn't allow cell phones to be used in the vehicle.
Yes.
Think that'll ever happen here in Minnesota?
I kind of thought it would have happened by now, but you know, it's, you know, I think you're seeing more and more people going the hands-free, and I don't know, I definitely don't think you should be texting and driving. I think that's a good law. And
yeah, I almost got hit in Kenyon the other day. I was walking across the street, and the woman was looking down the entire time when I was walking across. If I had not stopped, she would have hit me in the crosswalk there in Kenyon. Well, I've got a boogie out of here, but thanks.
All right.
Appreciate it, Sheriff.
Have a great day,
Always
Gordy.
enjoy visiting with you.
You as well. Have a great weekend.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Not that you guys need it. Well, maybe you do need some, I guess.
Yeah. How about them Wild, huh?
Yeah, well, they've had a heck of a preseason. We'll see how the regulars. Remember last year they teased us. They had that month where they were the #1 rated team in the NHL, and they were just going crazy. And then had a month that was pretty bad, and then they got it all back together when Dudnik hit the team in January, I think it was.
Yeah.
Well, that concludes today's edition of AM Minnesota.